Vedas are a corpus of words, but that words help us to know a lot of knowledge. So we call Veda as Vangmayam. So Sanatana Dharma 101 class, we will wrap up today with a summary on Vedas. So this is Vangmayam, collection. So Vedas are nothing but collection of words. That words have come from the Supreme Himself, and they are here to guide us. Veda pranihito dharmaha adharmastad viparyaya Vedo na. So what is in Bhagavatam, it says whatever said in Veda is what dharma. Whatever is not supported by Veda is adharma. So that is what we have to take. So and then why it is asya mahato bhutasya nisvasitam etad yad rigvedo yadurvedaha samavedo atarvangirasaha. Because it is from the breath. In physiology we say it takes 4 seconds for one breath. And imagine in 1 hour, imagine in 1 day how many such nisvas, how many such breathing we will do. We are able to control the breath only for certain constraint of time and space. Human being can only control breath for certain constraint of space and time. Beyond that, we don't have control. We can't keep on controlling the breath for an hour. Then you know what is the result. But the Supreme may be able to do, but to tell the importance and the prominence of breath, we say that Vedas are breath of the Supreme to show the importance, to show the prominence. But there are 2 views. One they say is Vedas are themselves self-sustaining. Of course, yes. But there is one opinion that the Vedas were created, Nirman Kiya. These Vedas were created by Brahman, the Supreme. I am of that view that Vedas are the breath of the Brahman Supreme, but they are created by Him. Because He is different, Brahman is different, Paramatma is different. But staunch Vedic Vadis say that no, Brahman is Brahman superior, but Vedas are on their own standing. There are 2 views. And then the relatively third contemporary views is Vedas are called apaurusheyam. That means these are not done by men. Of course, if these are not done by men, the first and foremost argument is it is from Paramatma. Everybody agrees. Then one argument is Paramatma is standalone entity. Vedas are like the breath. So they are separate entity but connected to Brahman. And the third entity is these days, relatively contemporary scholars say that they call it as apaurusheyam because these were seen. Nobody accepts the fact that Vedas were written. These were seen by people who we call it as rishis, who are superior than ordinary laymen. Because these Vedas were seen and propagated by rishis, mantra drashtaraha iti rishihi. So the people who have visualized through their powers, cosmic powers, these people are superior than ordinary laymen, hence we can call it as apaurusheyam. So there are 3 different views. Whatever said and done, the Vedas have been seen by people who are better than the ordinary layman. So that is what we should take. In that sense, we call it as apaurusheyam. But Veda itself says, asya mahato bhutasya nisvasitam. Mahato bhutasya nisvasitam. That also says it is mahat bhutasya nisvasitam. This is the breath of the Supreme. So that means Supreme is Supreme. The breath of the Supreme. So in one way, if you literally take this, this comes from Brihadaranyaka. So if you take from this particular phrase from Brihadaranyaka, although we say Vedas are breath, But this breath is not of an ordinary person. This breath is of a Mahato Bhutaha, Supreme Brahman. So Brahman has the authority and power to control the breath. Hence these Vedas emanated from Brahman. So that is my view. Whereas some people say this is Apaurushayam, means even Supreme did not create, but it is a breath of Supreme. Okay. And the third one, the most recent contemporary view is, we call it as Apaurushayam because these were seen by rishis. So, Anadi Nidana Vidya Vagud Srishta Swayambhuva. So there is another thing. In Mahabharata it says, Swayambhuva Srishta. This was created by a Swayambhu. You can take it both ways. These Vedas came as a Swayambhu. But Swayambhu means it is supreme. So these Vedas were created by Swayambhu. Anadhi Nidana Vidya Vagud Srishta Swayambhuva. So this Veda, no matter whatever it is, Vedas are supreme. And these Vedas were used by Brahma Prajapati to create the universe and to create the world. And the Vedas were in the Shabda Swarupa. They were like sound. In the primordial time and space, Vedas were sound, Nada Brahman. So, and then the sound comes in 4 different forms. And the 4th form of Veda is the one. The 4th form of the sound is what comes as Veda, which human beings listen. So there are 4 different forms of Vedas, Sabdas. One is known as Para, Pashyanti. 3rd one is Madhyama. And 4th one is Vaikari. Chatvari vak parimita padhani tani vidhu brahmana emanishina guhatri nihata nengyanti turiyam vacho manushya vadanti. The Veda Sabda, what we are listening today, is the 4th form of the Shabda. First one is Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikari. Turiyam vacho manushya vadanti. Devim vacham ajanayanta devaha tam vishwarupah pashavo vadanti. Words and Shabda are different forms, but everything emanated from the Supreme, Devim Vacham. So it came from Devi, it came from Deva, Devata, Supreme, Brahman. And because it emanated from that Brahman, it is itself Supreme, Devim Vacham, Ajanayanta Devaha. It came from Deva. Guhatrini nihita nengyanti turiyam vacho manushya vadanti. The words which we listen, of course the Veda, what we listen, what we learn, is the 4th form of expression. So, it is very important that this world is run by Veda. Veda pranihito dharmaha hi adharmasya tad viparyayaha. In Bhagavatam, 6th canto, Vedo Narayanaha Sakshat. So Vedas are breath. So you cannot separate breath from Bhargavi. You cannot separate Rachel's breath from Rachel. So you don't say Rachel's breath. You call Rachel. As long as Rachel breathes, Rachel is called a Rachel. So in that sense, Vedas are eternally connected to Brahman, but Brahman is superior. Rachel is Rachel. Nobody goes and separates the breath from Rachel and talks to Rachel's breath. They only talk to Rachel. They only talk to Marthan. They only talk to Dr. Hema Mehta. Likewise, that Vedas are the breath of the Supreme, which Bhagavat says as Narayana. Veda pranihito dharmaha. What is said in Veda is dharma. Hya dharmas tad viparyaya. Adharmasya tad viparyaya. If something is said no by Veda, that is adharma. Do not follow. Vedo Narayanaha Sakshat. Veda is nothing but the Supreme Brahman. Vyasa names that Supreme Brahman to be Narayanaha. Naranam Ayanaha Yasya Sa. The abode of every sentient and insentient materials is Narayanaha. Swayambhuhu iti Sushrumaha. So Narayana is Swayambhu. Because Narayana is Swayambhu, the Veda itself is Swayambhu. But in general understanding, that Vedas are controlled by Supreme. Because Supreme is Supreme. So you have to distinguish that Supreme. And there are 4 Vedas, but Veda in most places recognizes Trayi. Yajur, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. From now on, let us not use the word Atharvana. The original word is Atharvangirasa. Atharvangirasa, because it is, all these have been collated under the instruction of Veda Vyasa by his Sishya called Atharvangirasa Muni. So we should correctly call it as Atharva Ved. Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sama Ved, Atharva Ved. And Rig is in the poetic form. It has a meter. And Yajur is in the prose form. And Sama Veda, the text is from Rig Ved, and they are set to some tune, Samam. The tune is generally referred to as Samam. And Atharva Ved consists most of Rig Ved Bhag plus Yajur Ved and some additional independent collections. So it is known as Atharva Ved. But Veda mostly recognizes as Trayi. Sahisrihi Amruta Satam, Rig Yajur Sama. So these 3 are recognized because Atharva Ved is basically culled from Rig Ved and Yajur Ved. So that is Veda. What is Veda? And then Shayana says, what is the purpose of Veda? It is a rule book. Vedas are nothing but rule book. And Shayana was the saint in Vijayanagara Empire, and he was the first one, with the help of many of his disciples, did write definitions, write explanation to the entire corpus of Veda. Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Krishna Yajur Ved, Sukla Yajur Ved, and Sama Ved. It's a yeoman task. Professor Wilson, Professor Max Muller, they all have eulogized Shayana. It's not an ordinary task. It is not possible. So he, with the help of a lot of his disciples, in the Vijayanagara Empire time, these people collectively did Vyakhyana or did explanations of Veda. Without that, we won't even understand Veda. Prior to Shayana, the Yajur Ved was explained by another scholar called Bhatta Bhaskara. So Bhatta Bhaskara limited giving explanation only to Yajur Ved. But later on, when Shayana came, Shayana is interchangingly called Vidyaranya, but there are a lot of different viewpoints on it. The Harihara and Bhukka's minister was Vidyaranya, they say, and Vidyaranya's brother was Shayana, they say. And some people are of the opinion that Vidyaranya and Shayana are one and the same. Whatever said and done, these were done during Harihara and Bhukka. Harihara and Bhukka were the people who created the Hindu Dharma, Hindu Rashtra, with Hampi as the capital, Vijayanagara Empire, right? Of which one of the famous kings was Krishna Deva Raya. Okay, and then Nayaks came and all those things happened. So this was done relatively few years back, you can take. I'm talking in the time of the Vedas. It's relatively new, 500 odd years back. Shayana or Vidyaranya or Sayana and Vidyaranya brothers duo. Either way you can take, because there are different viewpoints. They were the one for the first time gave the explanation for the entire corpus, Vangmaya for Veda. And in that introduction, Shayana writes, what's the purpose of this Veda? This we have to know. Ishtaprapti. If you need to get something, Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, Vasante Vachante, Jodishtomo Yajeta. In springtime, every springtime, you have to do one ritual called Jyotishtoma. What is the purpose of Jyotishtoma? If you want to go to Swarga, you perform this Jyotishtoma. So in that sense, if you need anything, desire to be fulfilled, Ishtaprapti, then if you need to get out of ill things, Anishta Parihara. You don't want any ill things. Nobody wishes ill things. To quell all the ill things, do those things which are stipulated. Don't simply do the things which are stipulated in Vedas, means I have to keep on doing karma. The people who are totally embroiled in karma are known as Mimamsaka. They only will do karma, keep on doing karma. Of course, you need to do karma, but follow the way of life, what Veda preaches. Anishta Pariharaha. Anishta Pariharayoho. Alaukikam Upayam. Those things which you cannot comprehend. Even in physics theory, even in certain chemistry theory, you may not be able to comprehend everything and anything. So there are certain things you have to take what previous scientists said and then you verify. Likewise, alaukikam upayam. All those things which cannot be thought of, all those things which doesn't give you answer immediately, those can be found in Vedas, because what we say, Vedas are Gospels. Gospels are nothing but based on ultimate faith. So, Ishtaprapti, Anishta Pariharayoho, Alaukikam Upayam, Yaha Grantaha Vedayati. That text, that Gospel which teaches you these, Ishtaprapti, Anishta Pariharaha, Alaukikam Upayam, Yo Granta Vedayati iti Veda. Vedayati means to teach, to give knowledge. So, Vedayati iti Veda. So, then Vedas, then after Vedas there are Upavedas. Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda and Arthasastra. Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda, Arthasastra. Arthasastra means economics. So, the study of medicine and then the study of valor, Dhanurveda. Dhanur means bow. And then Gandharva Veda, the music and dance and all those things, arts. You can simply take it as arts. Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda and Arthasastra. These are called Upaveda. So, Upaveda, and some people say instead of Arthasastra, they say building, architecture, Sthapatyam. Architecture means in Sanskrit Sthapatyam, construction, the knowledge about construction. So, Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda and Sthapatya Ved or Atharva Ved. There are two different viewpoints on that too. So Vedas are 4, but Vedas have multiple branches. Then comes secondary Vedas. For lack of better term, I am taking it as Upaveda. I am taking in English as secondary Vedas. Secondary Vedas are Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Dhanurveda, and then Gandharva Veda, and fourth one is Sthapakya Veda. And Manu says clearly, Srutistu Vedo Vigneyaha. Ved means you should only have that Sruti. It should be said in certain tone and intonation. Srutistu Vedo Vigneyaha. So Vedas are also called as Sruti. Manu says this because it was only propagated by listening. By a preceptor will tell, the disciples will listen. So Srutihi Vedo Vigneyaha. So Vedas are eternal texts. Vedas are the gospel for living. Vedas are like Raja Kattala. Vedas are like the edicts of Raja, administrative edicts. You got to follow. So Vedas are also called as Shruti. Vedas are propagated from generation to generation, so they are known as Amnaya, Veda, Shruti, Amnaya, Chandas, because they are set in some tone, so they are known as Chandas, and Vedas give edicts, so they are known as Sastras. So these are all the different meanings of Veda. Sasanati iti Sastra. So Vedas are corpus of words which have so much meaning to it. It is known as Vangmayam. And these Vedas are Apaurusheya. That means these are Veda. Brihadaranya Upanishad says these are Apaurusheya because this is breath of the Supreme. So we have seen three viewpoints. So it is breath of the Supreme, so it is controlled by Supreme. Supreme can control his breath. So Vedas are controlled by Brahman. So Brahman is superior. But in Vyavaharik, in layman's term, you see that a human being, when it comes to his ultimatum, his or her ultimatum, a human being will not be able to control the breath. Because if he is not able to control the breath, then he becomes martyr. So in that way, there is also a viewpoint saying that Vedas and Brahman are interconnected, but Vedas are Vedas in a way standalone, Brahman is Brahman. So it is an independent entity. That is one viewpoint. Most people accept that too. And contemporary viewpoint is Vedas have been seen by rishis, mantradrashtaraha rishi, but these rishis are super, better and well mature and refined and thoughtful than human beings. In that sense, the Vedas which were seen by rishis can also be called as Apaurusheya because these are not seen or written by common laymen. So Vangmayam, which is Apaurushayam, because it is not done by a human being. Why we give such a prominence? Why we consider Veda to be authority? In Sanskrit it is Pramana, Sarva Pramana. Because these are not done by human beings. Human beings are always engulfed with desires, engulfed with anger, kamaha, krodaha, because they are always caught with sensory organs, the pleasures of sensory organs. So they are bound to make mistake. To err is human. So because this gospel, this text, this Vangmaya, this text is not done by a human being. These are Apaurusheya, not done by human being. These are not prone to blemishes. Because we need to only take an authoritative text to be an authoritative text if it is free of blemishes, spotless, blemishless. Because this is totally from Brahman. It is the breath of the Brahman, and these were seen by rishis who are above the common layperson. There will not be any blemishes in this text. Because of that, we are considering Vedas as authority. Then later on, understanding of Vedas, rishis came and then they contemplated. And then keeping Vedas as baseline, they started elucidating Vedas. And that they thought, they discussed Smarak. Then from the word Smarak, Smriti, that means they kept on contemplating, discussing. Later days. Then they were able to elucidate and elaborate the meaning of Vedas. Those texts which were given by rishis based on their contemplation are known as Smriti. The Sarva Pramana, the authoritative text is Veda, Shruti. Then those things which were elucidated based on Vedas, So that to explain the true meaning of Vedas, rishis or munis, they contemplated, discussed, elaborated, and those texts are known as smriti. Then later days, in Treta Yuga, in Dwapara Yuga, later days, whatever it is dictated in Vedas, whatever rishis elaborated in smritis, people started living, not everybody, one or two avatara purushas, like Ram, like Krishna, like Parasuram, all those incarnations. They came to explain Veda in a practical way. Practicum. It's like theory and practical. So, avataras are practicals. Then people started notating the avatars, how these people exhibited themselves based on the edicts, based on the rules and regulations given in Shastras, given in Vedas, and these were known as Yuga Purush, like Ram, Maryada Purush Ram, Krishna. So their lives, their teachings, Rama preached very little, Krishna preached a lot. So their teachings were written either by authors who lived along the time, in the same time of Rama and Krishna. So those texts which were written by contemporary authors or poets, which makes them more authoritative, those are known as itihasas. Iti iha asana. This is how it was lived. This is how it happened. Iti iha asana. This is how it happened. This is how Rama lived. This is how Ravana was killed. Because Valmiki, sage Valmiki, was contemporary to Rama. In Ramayana itself, in Aranyakanda, Rama will visit Valmiki. So, it is, the text itself says that Rama visited Valmiki, so Valmiki should have lived during the time of Ram. So, he was a contemporary author. So, that text gets superiority. So, that is iti hasan, iti iha asan. This is how it was. So, there are two itihasas. Like you have Iliad and Odyssey in Helena. But Iliad and Odyssey, nobody reads them. Nobody memorizes them. That's the difference. Whereas till today, Ramayana is memorized. Ramayana is recited. Bhagavad Gita is memorized. Bhagavad Gita is recited. Vidura Nidhi is recited. Yaksha Prasna is recited. That's a distinction between Sanatana Dharma and Hellenic Dharma. Anyway, so Itihasan, there are two epics, and those are Ramayana and Mahabharata. Professor Monier Williams, the second Bowden professor of Sanskrit in Oxford in 1860, he gave a beautiful lecture in Oxford. That's a very prestigious post. The first post of Bowden professor of Sanskrit was Horace Williams, who translated the entire corpus of Rig Veda in English. And the second chair was occupied by Monier Williams, who wrote the popular Sanskrit English dictionary, Monier Williams Dictionary. He says, he gives contrasts between Odyssey and Iliad of Homer as against Ramayana and Mahabharata. Beautiful. He says, Ramayana and Mahabharata are memorized, Ramayana and Mahabharata are eulogized, Ramayana and Mahabharata are recited in Bharat and everywhere else, whereas Odyssey and Iliad are maybe enacted. Nobody is reciting. Nobody is treating them as a religious text. So that's one contrast, to show that Sanatana Dharma is still practiced. So those two are important grantha, but Mahabharata has 1,25,000 slokas. Sapata Laksha Grantha. Pata means 25, Shata mane 100. So 125,000, that means 1,25,000 slokas. It's an onerous task to memorize Mahabharata. So that 700 slokas of Bhagavad Gita gives the essence, because that's the preaching. And Max Muller gives the translation for Bhagavad Gita as Song Celestial. Max Muller translated Bhagavad Gita, and the title he gives, Bhagavataha Gitaha Yasya Saha. That means the words, the poem of Lord. the poem given by Lord. You can take either way. So he says, song celestial. Gita mane song, and Bhagavat mane the supreme celestial. And the title given by Max Muller for Bhagavad Gita was Song Celestial. So interestingly, Monier Williams and Max Muller competed for the Bodian chair position in Oxford. Max Muller is very, very well known Sanskrit scholar, not only Sanskrit scholar, Persian, Arabic, Urdu, and all South Asian language. So was Monier Williams. Then why did Monier Williams get it? Because Monier Williams lived in India. Max Muller never visited India. Can you believe? He never visited in India, sitting in Oxford. He was German, but had a position as a professor in Oxford, but never had an opportunity to visit India. But he also translated a lot of text. Some people agree with him, some people do not agree. But whatever said and done, his language command is far above than mine. So I am nowhere to critique him. So Max Muller competed for the position of the second Borden Sanskrit chair in Oxford University, but the board of directors gave Monier Williams the chair because not only he was a scholar of South Asian studies, he was the tutor for imperial civil service people who worked for British Raj in India. So he lived in India. In fact, he was born in India. So they felt that he knows Bharat, he knows the Sanatana Dharma, he knows rituals, he knows the practices. So they gave it to him. So Monier Williams in 1860, in May, I guess it was 9th May 1860 in Oxford, delivers a lecture. Indian epic poetry. He talks and he propagates the importance, and he tells every British civil servant in India should have some understanding of Ramayana and Mahabharata. That is the basis of the way of life in India. Ramayana and Mahabharata are nothing but practical explanation of Veda. We are coming slowly. So Veda part we finished. Now we are entering into Upanishad and then into Itihasas. The end portion of Vedas are Upanishad, which talks about the Supreme, which talks about the Atma, the relationship between Supreme and Atma. There are 1000 Upanishads. Out of 1000 Upanishads, people say there are texts for 108, but most prominent is 12 Upanishads, 10 plus 2. Kaushiki and Swetaswataros Upanishad. So 10 plus 2, Kaushiki Upanishad and Swetaswataro Upanishad. So 10 plus 2 comes to 12. So 12 Upanishads are more popular. Kena to Chandokya gives you 10. Kena Kata, Mundaka, Mandukya, Brigadaranika, Aitareya, Chandokya, like that 10. Plus Kaushiki and Swetaswataro Upanishad gives 12. Then the explanation of Vedas, explanation of Upanishads, all come in Itihasas, which are Ramayana and Mahabharata. Bharat, that is nothing but practical. You can take it as a lab book, lab notebook. The procedures and formulas are in Vedas, and how to do that, how to do things which have been told in Vedas. Did they give you any fruit? Did they give you any phala? Are they going to give you any answer? Those things are practical, and the practical lab notebook is nothing but Ramayana and Mahabharata. So we will continue with this class. So what we have done so far is understood some aspects of Vedas. Vedas are Vangmaya. Vedas are authoritative texts because these are not done by human beings. Then Vedas, then the rishis contemplated on Vedas and then explained the Vedas using text known as Smritis. There are a lot of Smritis. Yajnavalkya Smriti, Parasara Smriti, Vasishta Smriti, so many Smritis, Manu Smriti, so many Smritis, Bharadwaja Smriti, named after the Rishi because that particular Rishi led that effort towards collecting those thoughts into one text known as Smriti. They thought about it, they contemplated, imbibed the essence of it, and then gave it to people. Smriti smarakam, iti smriti. Then itihasas, iti iha asan. This is how these things happened. Ramayana and Mahabharata. So, way back in 1860, the world knew the importance. The British world and then the Western world knew it because it came from an influential Sanskrit professor, Monier Williams. And he clearly says, Ramayana and Mahabharata are etched in Sanatana Dharmi's life. That is the reason in many houses, in villages, per day they recite one chapter of Ramayana. Ramayana, they take one chapter, that's 7 cantos. 7 cantos, about 640 chapters, something of that 600 and odd chapters. So they recite. So in 2 years, you will finish one full cycle of Ramayana. So it is done on a daily basis. It's a ritual practice, literary practice and ritual practice. So Monier Williams says, Odyssey and Iliad of Homer are not practiced on a daily basis. Maybe they do it in a theater. Okay? But Ramayana and Mahabharata are not like that. So that is Sanatana Dharma. Because Sanatana Dharma is nothing but way of life. Shanno mitra shamvarunaha, shanno bhavadvaryama, shanna indro brihaspatihi, sanno vishnu rurukramaha, namo brahmane, namaste vayo, tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi, tvameva pratyaksham brahmavadisham, ruthamavadisham, satyamavadisham, tanmamavid, tadvaktaramavid, avinmam, avidvaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.